What unfolded on court during Marina Stakusic first-round match at the 2026 Australian Open was one of those moments that instantly silences the crowd and sends a ripple across the tennis world. 1 minute, the young Canadian was fighting with everything she had, showing grit and belief against home favorite Priscilla Hun. The next, she was unable to stand, unable to continue, and being wheeled off the court in a scene that reminded everyone just how brutal and unforgiving elite tennis can be. From the very start, the match carried an edge. Stakusic, still carving her name into the main draw conversation at Grand Slams, stepped onto the Melbourne court knowing this was a golden opportunity. Across the net stood Priscilla Hun, experienced, composed, and backed by a vocal Australian crowd. The first set swung heavily in Hun's favor. She dictated play early, moved Stakusic corner to corner, and took the set 6-1. For many watching, it looked like the match might be slipping away quickly. But that's where Marina Stakusic showed why people have been talking about her. Instead of fatting, she dug in. She adjusted her movement, extended rallies, and began to match Hun shot for shot. The second set became a battle of willpower. Stakusic chased down balls others would give up on, fought through long exchanges, and slowly turned the momentum. When she closed out the second set 6-4, it felt like a statement. She wasn't just there to participate. She was there to compete. As the third set began, the intensity only grew. Both players pushed harder, knowing the match could swing at any moment. Stakusic continued to battle, but subtle signs began to appear. Her movement didn't look as fluid. Between points, she took extra time, bending forward, stretching her legs, shaking them out. At first, it seemed like nothing more than normal fatigue under the harsh Australian conditions. Melbourne heat has humbled even the greatest champions. Then it became clear something was wrong. Midway through the deciding set, with Hun leading 5-3, Stakusic suddenly stopped. The rallies ended, not with a winner but with concern. She struggled to put weight on her leg. Her face told the story before any official announcement could. Medical staff rushed in as the crowd watched in stunned silence. Moments earlier, this was a fierce contest. Now it was about whether she could even stand. Despite treatment, stretching, and visible effort to push through, the pain and cramping were overwhelming. Severe leg cramps had seized control of her body. Anyone who has experienced intense cramping knows it's not just discomfort. It's a complete shutdown. Your muscles simply refuse to cooperate. For a professional athlete on one of the biggest stages in tennis, it's a nightmare scenario. When the decision was made to bring out a wheelchair, the reality hit hard. This wasn't tactical. This wasn't precautionary. Marina Stakusic could not continue. As she was wheeled off the court, the atmosphere shifted completely. The crowd applauded, not out of celebration, but out of respect. Priscilla Hun, despite advancing to the next round, showed pure sportsmanship, even briefly helping support Stakusic's leg. It was a human moment that cut through the competitive tension and reminded everyone that beyond rankings and results, these are athletes pushing their bodies to the limit. For Stakusic, the heartbreak was visible. First-round matches at a Grand Slam are not guaranteed opportunities. Players train their entire lives for these moments. To have it end not because you were outplayed, but because your body betrayed you, is devastating. She had already proven she belonged on that stage by fighting back after a tough first set. The momentum shift showed her resilience. Unfortunately, resilience alone couldn't overcome what her body was going through. It's important to be clear about what happened. Early speculation online labeled it as a serious leg injury, but reports confirmed it was severe cramping rather than a structural injury like a tear or fracture. That doesn't make it any less painful or dramatic. In extreme conditions, cramps can completely immobilize an athlete, and continuing would risk real injury. The Australian Open has a long history of these moments. The heat, the pressure, the physical demands of hard courts all combine into a perfect storm. Even seasoned professionals have been forced to retire under similar circumstances. For a rising player like Stakusic, the challenge is even greater. Every point matters. Every match is a chance to prove something. What makes this moment resonate is not just the wheelchair or the retirement. It's the contrast. One set earlier, Stakusic was roaring back, matching Hun's stride for stride, feeding off the fight. Then, suddenly, the match was over. That sharp turn is what makes fans feel the weight of the sport. Priscilla Hun moved on to the second round, but even in victory, the match will be remembered for that ending. Wins like these are bittersweet. There's relief, yes, but also empathy. No player wants to advance this way. For Marina Stakusic, the takeaway is painful but not hopeless. She showed she can compete at this level. She proved she has the mindset to respond under pressure. What happened in Melbourne was not a failure of skill, but a harsh reminder of how thin the margin is between pushing through and being forced to stop. Tennis fans are already watching closely to see how she recovers and returns. Moments like this often become turning points. Some players crumble under the disappointment. Others come back stronger, fueled by unfinished business. If her fight in that second set is any indication, Marina Stakusic belongs firmly in the second category. The image of her being wheeled off court will stick with people, but it shouldn't define her. What should define her is the way she refused to disappear after losing the first set, the way she battled in the heat, and the respect she earned from fans, opponents, and the tennis world alike. This wasn't just a match. It was a reminder of the cost of chasing greatness, and of the courage it takes to step onto the court knowing your body might not cooperate, but choosing to fight anyway.